Sunday Kickoff. Brought to you in part by Surfside Iced Tea and Vodka. Now, here are Alex Barth and Cerrone Battle.
Welcome into Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff. Alex Barth, Cerrone Battle, Ryan Garden behind the glass. Into March 1st edition, mostly post-combine edition of the program. We still have offensive line workouts later today, but obviously a ton to get to between the reporting out of the combine, some fantastic work by the Patriots beat, those reporters. I will actually have Mark Daniels, who had a piece with Karen Garrigan on Mass Live, will join us coming up at 8:20. We'll also obviously get into the prospects and the workouts and all that and who we saw, who we like for the Patriots in the draft. So a lot to get to here today over the next 2 hours. Cerrone Battle, you ready? Buckle up. Here we go. Offseason entered the little lull. We talked about it being such a quick turnaround, but now we're full on in the offseason. The little lull is over. We'll have this. Next week we'll preview free agency. The week after that we'll react to free agency, right? It's the March 9th. We're 8 days away.
That's crazy. It's that fast.
The opening of tampering, and then obviously it's full speed all go towards the draft.
Yeah, I mean, when your team makes it to the Super Bowl, it's crazy how short the offseason really is. And it seemed like last couple of years we were doing this, the season ended and it felt like forever before they got to free agency or the draft. It was just such a long process. And now it's like, wait, they just played the Super Bowl last week. What are we doing going into free agency? But it's pretty cool to watch it just flow right into the offseason like this.
So turning the page to the offseason, looking ahead, again, a lot of good reporting this week. Mass Live, the Boston Herald, The Athletic, about what the Patriots are looking to do. And my biggest takeaway, and there's a few big takeaways in here. I don't want to diminish, some of the other stuff. The biggest takeaway seems to be, though, the number one need in the team's eyes, and I personally agree with this. I know some people disagree. They say, well, the offense struggled throughout the playoffs. How can the biggest need be on defense? But, not all attention, but the main focus seems to be on adding an edge rusher or edge rushers.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the reporting indicating that the Patriots could maybe add multiple players at the position, which they might need to do. Again, Caleb Von Chason is a free agent. They are expecting to have Harold Landry back, but he's going to be 30. He was never really right last year after suffering that knee injury. Where is he going to be at? And then they have, some younger players that I think popped in moments. Obviously, Elijah Ponder, the UDFA, had a nice season for what it was, but he only played about 200 snaps. So to suddenly project him into a starting role, I mean, you're asking for a lot there. So I agree that it's the biggest need. I wouldn't hate if it's something they double dip. Now, I don't know that needs to be the biggest free agent signing and the first round pick.
Yeah.
I think one of those things should be an edge. And then, if they sign a big name and then maybe go on day two, it's a really good edge class. It's a deep edge class, as we saw the other night at workouts. Like, that could make sense. But it does seem like that's what they view as the biggest need right now.
Yeah, I mean, and for multiple reasons. Like you mentioned, that some of the guys that might not be here going into the season, you don't know the situation with Barmore or how that's going to play out. That's another slot you'd have to fill. If he's not going to be available or not going to be on the team, now you're going edge, you're going D tackle, and you're going to have to fill those through multiple ways: trades, free agency, draft, all of it. But wherever you can get the talent to fill that, and even after last season, the defense was extremely good last year. They were good in the postseason, but we questioned their depth all year. So even if those guys stick around, you still need depth at that position on the defensive line, front seven in general. You need long-term depth, not just fill-in pieces. You need to build a foundation in that front seven, a core, just like we wanted to see on the offensive side. You have to do the same on the defensive side of the ball, and I think we all can agree, everyone can agree, that the front seven, even as good as they were, if you want to be on Houston's level or some of these other teams, you need depth and you need talent at every one of those positions in that front seven.
So some of the names that were thrown out there, the reporting, and honestly just what John Spytek, the GM of the Raiders, said, the Max Crosby thing, probably a pipe dream at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't seem like the Raiders seem like they're going to try to make it work with him, which, if they can, if he's not unhappy, you don't trade him. You just sign him to an extension last year.
Yeah.
There was no football reason to trade him. It was just, okay, well, if he's going to refuse to play, well, you're not going to keep him on the roster. There's no point in that. But if they can make it work with him, that comes off the board. So, Mass Live noted that the Patriots might be in on Trey Hendrickson. Now, that was, they mentioned at the right price. So, what will that be? Hendrickson's deal is going to be interesting because he had back-to-back 17.5 sack seasons.
Yep.
But then last year he's hurt, his production dipped, all of that. He's entering his age 31 season. That's probably like a 1-year big money deal. I would think maybe a second year.
Yeah.
But, across all the reports we saw, Dafe Owe, Jalen Phillips, Boy Mafe, these are all guys that are like 26, 27 years old, are that athletic attacking type of edge rusher, and Elliott Wolf kind of dug in deep. What was cool is we got from Wolf and from Vrabel, and it wasn't just edge, it was safety. I wrote some of these up on 985thesportshub.com, running back. Not just, hey, this is a position we're looking at, but what the Patriots want out of those positions, which I think was informative. So, again, some of those names, Owe, Phillips, Mafe, fit the mold of what it sounds like the Patriots want. What Wolf said this week, he was asked what he looks for in an edge rusher. Pass rush, speed and violence, explosiveness, first step quickness, the ability to win in multiple ways. You can't just be a run around the hoop guy at this level. And then Vrabel said when asked about it, I think there's got to be a violence. There's got to be an ability to move off the football and create some sort of disruption. You have to be able to factor in on the quarterback. You have to be able to make plays on the football. So they're not looking for set the edge, contain, like that old Belichick kind of thing.
Yeah.
They want guys that are going to explode off the football, quick first step, get in the backfield, create havoc, and also nowhere in there, and I'm not saying that they don't care about the run, but nowhere in there was like, yeah, you got to be able to play the run. So kind of tells us the sort of player that they're looking at.
Yeah, I mean, they probably are looking at, we looked at the playoffs and saw them getting to C.J. Stroud, getting to Justin Herbert, getting to Jarrett Stidham. But a lot of that, they were doing it with pressure. They were bringing multiple guys. They were blitzing nonstop, especially in that Texans game. And we looked at it as like, yeah, look at them, look at them get after the quarterback. But they're probably looking at it like, man, we got to be able to win these without sending multiple guys. And I think the way you describe those edge rushers, and please, I don't want to take this the wrong way. Hendrickson is more of a power guy, if that makes sense. He's more of I would say he's like a D tackle with quick feet, but he's a heavier guy. I mean, I take Hendrickson. He's an all-pro talent. The age, I think, is taking some explosiveness away. His injury history has probably done the same, even though I don't know how much of last year was probably load management because of how bad the defense was.
That was probably part of it.
I think that's a huge part of it. I think he's probably healthy. I'm just going to go out on a limb with that one. But I understand what they're saying. And I don't know those guys that are free agents have that ability. But I think everybody's eyes were really open watching this combine and seeing the speed and power that these guys are playing with. Every single guy up there looked like Captain America running 40, going through some of the drills. It was pretty impressive to see. And I know they're looking at that and they're rubbing their hands again like, man, we probably, like you said, we probably could double dip here. We could find an explosive edge guy in the draft and sign one of these guys in free agent, maybe multiple guys. And now you have a roster, I wouldn't say full, but a roster of talented defensive linemen. That way it gives you options to sub guys in, sub guys out, to put in, like the people say, the NASCAR packages and stuff like that. I just think they're going to try and load up on this in multiple ways. But I think Hendrickson will be in your top 2 if you can land him and then add one of the other guys in the draft pick to go along with it, if not multiple draft picks.
You mentioned loading up the roster. This is our Restoring the Roster segment. It's brought to you by Blue Sky Restoration Contractors. If you're experiencing property damage from ice dams, roof leaks, or burst pipes, our guys at Blue Sky are ready to respond 24/7. So visit goblusky.com, no E, blusky.com. Blue Sky Restoration, restoring your property and your life for a brighter tomorrow. The other pieces of news, big thing we kind of heard this week, wide receiver Elliott Wolf talked about wanting to add playmakers So first off, in terms of the ones they have, they're going to have to figure out something with Stephon Diggs. What are they going to do with Stephon Diggs? He's due money just after the new league year. Are they going to keep him on his current contract? He's a $20-something million cap hit. Are they going to restructure his contract? Now, he would have to obviously agree to that. Or are they just going to release him based on the reporting, pending the legal stuff? It sounds like he may still be here. And then the A.J. Brown of it all, because keeping Diggs does not add a playmaker. And Mike Vrabel mentioned you can't really sign these guys in free agency, and it looks like that's going to be the case again this year. Mm-hmm. It would make all the sense in the world that the Colts keep Alec Pierce. George Pickens has already been franchise tagged. I don't know how you feel about Mike Evans. Has been a tremendous player for a long time.
Yeah,
I'd like to see them go a little younger. If they're going to add, like you have one 33-year-old receiver in Stephon Diggs, I don't know that adding another one is the answer. It's probably better than nothing, but there's the A.J. Brown of it all. It sounds like the Eagles are asking for a very high price for A.J. Brown. Look, ask for it. No, they have all the right in the world to ask for it. The question is, at the end of the day, do they ultimately decide that he's going to be an issue on the roster and they have to trade him for less than they want? Or do they say, we're not going to get what we want, we're going to keep him and make it work? Like, to me, the package is somewhere between what Diggs went for 2 years ago when he went to Houston and DK Metcalf last year. So Diggs was a second, fifth, and sixth. And one of those later round picks was a year, I think the second also, if I remember correctly, was a future. And then Metcalf was a second and then a late round pick swap. So, even if it's a second and a fourth, I'd probably do that. I'd probably trade 31 if it's just 31.
Yeah.
But it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. He seemed pretty unhappy last year. And look,
to say the least,
I get the Eagles are going to want the world, especially when you talk about the dead cap hit they're going to be left with. I've seen people talk about the issues for the contract when it comes to trading for him. The issues are not on the Patriots' end. The contract the team that trades for A.J. Brown gets is fine. It leaves the Eagles with $20 million in dead cap. It actually cuts into their cap to move them. So that's going to be part of the compensation, and that's maybe why they want so much, is you're going to have to offset that.
Mm-hmm. My thing with them, with the Eagles, same thing with the Raiders when it comes to Max Crosby. Around here, we've been talking Max Crosby, A.J. Brown since the start of last season. Seems like they know it too. They know you're desperate. They know.
Yeah.
They hear the rumors. They see the social media chatter. They see it all. They know that you want these guys. So they're like, how bad do you really want them? So they're going to set their price at their price. Like, look, we had our issues with A.J. Brown. We know, what's going on here. We've dealt with this for the last couple of years. We won a Super Bowl while he was kind of going through it. His questions about the offense and how things are run, and not so much him getting the ball, how he gets the ball, all those things. Maybe they feel, hey, we've addressed this stuff in the offseason. We're going to address it in our play calling, our small changes we made in our staff, players around him, all those things. We're going to try and work this out, similar to Max Crosby, unless you're willing to give us your first round pick and something else. And that's where the Patriots have to make the decision of how bad they really want this guy. And I know fans will be disappointed if you come away with none of these players. But in order to make these things happen, the other team has to agree to this. It's not like the Patriots failed because they didn't get A.J. Brown, because they didn't try to get A.J. Brown. The other team has to be willing to give that guy up. And if they don't come off their price, it is what it is. And you're just going to have to move on and draft your own version of A.J. Brown and develop your own Max Crosby. I mean, it is what it is, but it takes two to tango here. And if the Eagles aren't willing to give him up for a decent price, don't kill yourself trying to throw everything at this one player just to bring him in because he's cool with Vrabel and other things. But if they're not meeting your price, then don't go crazy to get him.
So those were the big stories out of Combine Week around the Patriots. Again, a lot of good reporting, including from Mass Live with Mark Daniels and Karen Gregan. We'll have Mark Daniels joining us next here right after these words on Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff.
More Sunday Kickoff is on the way on the
at the NFL Combine in Indianapolis this week. Mark, thanks for taking the time to join us.
Hey guys, good morning.
Morning. I want to start big picture before we get into some of the individual stuff that you reported on. So at the beginning of the week, Elliot Wolf, Mike Vrabel both talk, and I thought it was interesting. Wolf was asked directly, does he consider the Patriots still in a rebuild? To which he said no, but did kind of mention that they can't. They still have to keep building and can't necessarily get complacent. I'm paraphrasing here. After making it to the Super Bowl. And that I think maybe some people don't understand, like, building versus rebuilding can be a fine line to walk. How do you feel like, from what you heard, where the Patriots sit on that line?
I think they know they need to inject more talent into the roster, and considering their cap space, it's not bad. It's like $40 million, but considering how, I'd say, poor the free agent class is, I think in this instance, the best thing to do is try to really nail the draft class again. And I guess in some ways, every year is like that, where the best way to find good blue chip talent is through the draft. And you don't necessarily need to be picking in the top 10, but the Pats know I think it was pretty clear against Seattle that, there's some holes here, on the defensive line, clearly, and something might change on the offensive line. And so I think when you look at what they're doing, they have some cap space to add some, 2 or 3 solid veterans. And I think they're hoping for a big draft class because I think we both know this, like, how many Pro Bowlers are there really on the roster? 2, and maybe a third of Milton Williams, but you just need to continue to add to this thing. And, I'm not going to say they got lucky last year because last year was a special season, but I think the Pats just know they need to get better, and the best way to do that thing is to really hit the draft, and they're really, really hoping for another good class.
What you mentioned about the free agent class being down this year, I've heard a lot of talks about before the Combine that this current draft wasn't going to be as strong as others. Do you think after this recent few days, do you think people are feeling a lot different about the draft overall, not just at quarterback positions or whatever, but do you see the draft actually looking a lot stronger than people had anticipated?
No, talking to scouts, they're pretty down on it, pretty down on the group in terms of it being like top heavy. But what's interesting about the Patriots is that their needs this offseason do line up with the draft where it's deep. So edge rusher, tight end, and I'd even say interior offensive lineman. Like, the Pats think they can go into this thing and come away with some future impact players, in a sense, by luck of the draw, because it's a good year to need an edge rusher. It's a good year to need a mid-round tight end, and it's a good year to find a potential starting guard in the mid-round. So, I think even Elliot said, like, the top need is edge rusher, and the draft lines up nicely. So in that way, I think the Pats are in a good position. But honestly, talking to scouts, like, oh, is this overblown? And they're all like, no, like, this draft is very good, like top heavy.
Again, we're talking to Mark Daniels from Mass Live. You mentioned edge rusher being the biggest need in your piece with Karen on MassLive.com. You threw out a couple of names, both for free agency and the draft. I want to ask you about free agency. A name that you brought up, and I saw a couple people bring up, was Jalen Phillips. Not entirely as surprised. There was some reporting linking the Patriots him at the trade deadline. He ends up going from Miami to Philly. What about him stands out as a fit to you? And then are there any other names that, again, you have a bunch in here, but really popped to you, either in terms of how much you heard them or just stood out to you as maybe a more likely fit?
Yeah, I think like one source said us when we put this in the story, quote, any good edge players on the table. The Pats really want to sign a veteran edge rusher, and they want to pair him with a rookie. That's an ideal scenario. Like, yeah, they like Jalen Phillips, and they like Trey Hendrickson, and both players would be impact players for the Patriots. I guess the issue here is the money, and that's not something Patriot fans are going to want to hear. But the rumor of the Combine was Jalen Phillips could surpass $20 million a year, and I think the Pats would be out on that. And on Trey Hendrickson, I was told, he'll be 32. He only played in 7 games. Does that bring down his market? And if it does, the Pats are in on that. And if it doesn't, they could be looking for someone who's going to be in like the $10 to $12 million range. So, like, question is, who is that? Is Kayvon Chason and someone else? Is it Boye Mafe from Seattle? I think he's a young guy in his prime who, was more so productive the other year. He had 9 sacks, so maybe someone like that. It's going to be fascinating to me to see how the market plays out and how the Pats' sort of financial strategy works here. Because, Trey Hendrickson, I think, is a guy you need in a sense where, you want another Pro Bowl talent on that defensive line, and it would be dominant. I'm just not entirely sure they can afford it. So, yeah, it's interesting because, the Pats have interest in Jalen Phillips and Trey Hendrickson, but it's for the right price. So I have to see how that plays out.
Do you see that position as being the one they spend the most money on? Like, for example, if they sign a Hendrickson, were they willing to not spend big on other positions and other needs and kind of build that through the draft? Or do you see another position where they can really, where they're really going to focus a lot of their money on this offseason?
I wouldn't be surprised if they signed a tight end. I think it just really makes sense. Hunter Henry was really, really good last year, had a career best, over 700 yards, but I thought down the stretch he faded a little bit, and Hunter is, 31? He'll be 32. I think tight end is almost a similar spot where the Pats should probably sign a veteran and draft someone in the mid-rounds. It'll be interesting to see what they want, though. Do you want someone who's more of an inline blocker? I really like Cade Otton from Tampa Bay. I think he'd fit it nicely. Yeah. I know fans really like Isaiah Likely just because, he's a local guy and he's super athletic. I'm not sure they want to go there. A guy like Kyle Pitts is sort of off the table. But I wouldn't be surprised if they were willing to, say find someone in that $10 million range at tight end and pair him with Hunter Henry, and then you try to draft someone, and then you're kind of good for the foreseeable future there, especially as Hunter Henry gets a little bit older. So that's a position I'm looking at. Honestly, another one I thought going into the combine, maybe they'd spend money on a veteran left guard and let, Jared Wilson just move to center, but that doesn't seem to be the case. I was told no, on that. So it looks like they're probably going to try to draft a guard again and let, Jared Wilson compete at 2 spots. But, yeah, in a week from tomorrow, it's going to get pretty interesting.
Again, we're talking to Mark Daniels from Mass Live. You mentioned in this piece, quote, there's internal interest in trading for A.J. Brown. And it makes sense, that's been discussed at length. The thing that kind of kept coming up this week was the Eagles want a lot for him. Now, it's nice to want things, and they have every right to try to get back as much as they can for a talented player, but the reporting is that he's unhappy there. How much of that Eagles asking price, and I have seen people throw out the Micah Parsons package, right? How much of that is just posturing and trying to max out what they can get before ultimately trading him for the best offer versus they're legitimately going to hold on to him and will only move him for a king's ransom?
Yeah, we'll see if they actually are willing to trade him. I'd be surprised if teams were willing to give up a first-round pick for A.J. Brown. He's around 28 years old, and one thing I heard about him in Indy was just there's concern about his knees. He's had surgery on both of them, and again, he's not getting any younger. Of course, I guess the argument is A.J. Brown 80% is still an upgrade for the Patriots and a lot of teams. If they're willing to depart with him, if I say something like a third-round pick, that's obvious. Yeah, you give up a third-round pick for A.J. Brown. A second-round pick, too, I could probably be convinced that, a end-of-the-round second. But if they're going to just put these outrageous trade, offers on the table or demands on the table, they're not really serious about trading A.J. Brown. So I think the Eagles were listening, and I think at this point they're probably trying to get the most they can, try to squeeze some water out of a rock. But you're right. He's unhappy. It seems like he's unhappy with the offensive system, the head coach, the quarterback. It'd probably be best for a change of scenery. And Patriots also know it's going to be really hard to upgrade a receiver this year. The free agent class isn't good. Alec Pierce isn't expected to leave Indy. You're picking at 31, so sure, you could take a flyer on a late-round receiver, and maybe that pans off, maybe it doesn't. But A.J. Brown might be the best available player, which also might play into the Eagles' hands.
And with that being said, with A.J. Brown, could you see another team that's desperate enough that will give up first-round picks for him? A team in your own division, like the Buffalo Bills or even the Baltimore Ravens, one of these teams you're competing against, could you see one of these other teams, I wouldn't say leapfrog the Patriots, but say, all right, fine, I'll give up a first-round pick for him. We're Kansas City, another team that could use a guy like that. Could you see one of these other teams just leapfrogging and willing to pay whatever these teams are offering for A.J. Brown?
Yeah, it's interesting. I was going to say the Chiefs too. With Pat Mahomes, get him someone like an AJ Brown, and see how that goes. And the Bills definitely make sense. And honestly, that kind of happened to the Pats at the trade deadline with Jalen Phillips. Like they wanted him, there was discussion there, but the Eagles ended up beating out their offer. So that stuff happens. So it's like, yeah, AJ Brown is being talked about, but it's probably not just the Patriots, as you said. There's other teams who need a veteran receiver, and it's interesting because like last year at this time we were talking about T. Higgins and Chris Godwin, and obviously Stephon Diggs was available, and this year it's a lot different. So in some ways that benefits Philly.
Finally, Mark, before we let you go here, just looking internally, you guys mentioned Khyiris Tonga. The Patriots have been trying to get a deal done with him. They haven't been able to get there. You mentioned Caleb Von Chase on a little earlier. Jalen Hawkins is a pending free agent as well. Those are kind of the big ones for the team. Are you expecting a resolution on any of those guys before free agency opens a week from tomorrow?
If I had to guess, Jalen Hawkins would probably be the odds-on favorite for that. I think he's a good fit in the Pat system. I'm not sure that how the league views him. And safety is always a weird position in free agency where sometimes guys don't get as much as they think they will for whatever reason. I don't know why that's always the case. Caleb Von Chase, I was told, is looking for a bag. Like he really wants to get paid, and there's some interest in him. But the Pats want him back. He wants to be back, but that's going to be a situation where they have to beat out the best price. So I'd be a little surprised if he re-signed with the Pats. I think they'd have to step it up. Khyiris Tonga, I'm not convinced is even coming back anymore, which is unfortunate. I thought he would have been a shoo-in, but prior to the playoffs, they had a contract on the table. It was really close to being done, and something got messed up on the finish line. And I don't know exactly what got messed up, Alex, but all I know is he didn't sign the contract. The playoffs happened, and when they met in Indy, the price went up to a place the Pats don't necessarily want to pay. So it's unfortunate because the Pats were very close to re-signing Khyiris Tonga before the playoffs. Something got messed up in the final minute. He didn't sign it. They finished up the Super Bowl run, and now there's a lot of interest in Khyiris Tonga, and the price that they were almost about to spend has gone up. So if the Pats want Khyiris Tonga, they're going to have to go to a place they didn't necessarily want to. So that'll be really interesting for me. So if they really want him back, they're going to have to step up and pay more. But from what I heard, and it was on Thursday, it sounded like he was going elsewhere.
Fantastic stuff from Mark Daniels, Karen Garrigan as well, and Mass Live. Again, you can check out, I recommend checking out everything they had from the Combine there. You can also follow Mark on social media at @ByMarkDaniels. Mark, thank you so much for getting up and joining us this morning and sharing what you heard out in Indy.
All right, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, a lot there. We'll be back to react to it coming up next here on Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff.
More Sunday Kickoff coming up on the Sports Hub.
for joining us. Some good stuff there, including about A.J. Brown. We didn't get to Steph Diggs, which the reporting this week sounded like all options are on the table with Diggs, but we're going to get a resolution soon. Whatever that is, whether that's a restructure, whether that's them moving on from him. I guess there's no resolution if they keep him. I don't think they're going to come out with the statement that's like, we're keeping Stephon Diggs on his current contract. I don't think they do that. So, but if we get to that deadline when the money's due, I guess that's the statement, so be it, of what the deal is with Diggs. Where are you at with the Patriots and receiver Cerrone? How important is it? I think the big thing, and Mark hit on it there really aren't a ton of outlets to add.
Yeah.
Alec Pierce is probably going back to Indy. George Pickens already been franchise tagged. We just kind of talked about this. Mike Evans is up there in age. There's your top 3 free agent wide receivers. If the Eagles trade A.J. Brown, great. Right now, the asking price is too high. The Patriots should not give up a first and a second for A.J. Brown. That's too much. I know people want them to be aggressive and all that. You can't be stupid.
Yeah.
And that would be too much. And then in the draft, like, there's some wide receivers I like in this draft. They're not getting to 31, especially not after the combine yesterday. So you're kind of working with what you have unless you get creative. And maybe they find somebody on day 2 that's a hit. Like, I'm not ruling that out, but, you're kind of up against it with Diggs. How important is it to you that they find a way to keep Diggs? And if it comes down to having to keep him at that $26.5 million cap hit, should they do it?
If they can find a way to keep him, sure. But I wouldn't be as devastated as a lot of fans would be if he wasn't here. I think last year what you got out of him, first of all, getting a full season out of him was incredible after the injury that he had. And we weren't sure if he was going to be there for camp and all that. And this guy comes out and plays, 20 games for you last season or whatever. Look, I mean, he's a good player. He's getting up there in age. I think very similar to your defensive line and other issues on this team, other holes. It's Elliott Wolf has to earn his money here. You have to be that team that drafts and develops. You got to get to that point. I know it's not a sexy thing to say for the fans or whatever. You have to find your next Stephon Diggs. And if he's not there in free agency, he's not there. If he could be there in the draft. I mean, Stephon Diggs, if I'm not mistaken, I don't think he went first couple rounds in the draft.
He went like the 5th round.
Exactly.
But that's rare now. So it's fun. Yeah. Like, the next Stephon Diggs, the way you say that, to me is in the draft, and it's KC Concepcion. Now,
who looked great.
Right. He had I don't know that he gets to 31. That's the thing. I had looked at it like, hey, I think he's a more athletic version of this current iteration of Stephon Diggs. I don't think he's the guy from Buffalo.
Stephon Diggs.
Right.
Yeah.
But like a more athletic version of this player who just had 1,000 yards would be that is a first round pick. That's a really good player. That's a number 1 wide receiver.
Yeah. Very explosive in the open field. If he gets free, he's gone.
I don't know that he's getting to 31.
Yeah.
A lot of people like Denzel Boston play on the outside. That was kind of the instead of A.J. Brown guy.
Yeah.
He didn't run a 40, which I don't love for the big guys. You want to see him run.
Yeah.
But everything else looked good. I don't know that he's getting to 31. Omar Cooper Jr., there's first round buzz for him now. Does Chris Brazzell enter the conversation out of Tennessee at 31? I don't think that's a ridiculous notion.
Yeah.
I would rather, they maybe take an edge there or even a safety if one of these safeties falls, like Thieneman from Oregon. Mm-hmm. But if you lose Diggs, your hand's kind of forced. So the Diggs thing to me is a major domino for how everything else goes. Again, he's due that $6 million on March 13th. So that will kind of be the cutoff. It sounds like they want to reach a resolution sooner than that. If they keep him, you still probably need to draft a wide receiver in the top 100, but it's not as urgent. If you lose him, I don't think you can just count on, all right, well, we lost Diggs. A.J. Brown's not here till he's here. And now, the second you cut Diggs, the price for A.J. Brown goes up Because to your point, like you said earlier, the Eagles know you're desperate. They have that leverage. So
everyone knows you're desperate now for a receiver.
Right.
I mean, the point which you were just making about the receivers all of a sudden now looking like they could fill up the first round.
Yeah.
I think that kind of works for you in a way, because if everybody starts making a run at receiver, one of those defensive ends might slide to you now because everybody's grabbing these receivers. Boston, I think, had an okay day. I think Fields hurt himself. He put the ball on the ground, I think, too many times. And his 40 time was pretty. I think it's like a 4.65 or something.
Yeah, he reminded me a lot of Keon Coleman a couple years ago going through the combine. That was already kind of my comp going in.
Yeah,
I don't love the idea of Fields. Especially that high, because you're probably going to need to take him. Maybe it's 63 if he's there. You're trading up from there. If not, taking him at 31 or trading back. I'm kind of out on Malachi Fields.
That was I would say that was kind of embarrassed for him. But just our luck. He'd be the kind of guy to fall right, just land right in the Patriots' lap in the second round. But I think what you're saying to run on these receivers, it could lead to them landing one of these incredible edge rushers or linebackers, whatever way you want to call them, hybrid defensive ends, whatever.
Yeah.
So I think it could work out for them there, but they're going to have to address it. They're going to have to find a way to get another receiver. Even if you keep Diggs, I think you're still going to have to figure out a way to get another younger guy in there. Yeah. I know Kyle Williams, it's not like his career is over or the book is finished on him. I think he has talent. I think last year's receiving group kind of surprised everybody and kind of put Williams to the side a little bit because Matt Collins turned into be a really, really good player for you. Diggs played the whole season. Keyshawn Boutte, it continued to improve. So there really wasn't any room for Kyle Williams. But I think he's going to be a major player for them next year, one way or the other. And you're going to have to develop another guy and kind of build your roster that way. Like some of the great teams in the league, they've done it through the draft and with a free agent here or there. But it's up to this coaching staff and these, player development guys to get these guys right and find your next guy. If it's a late round pick, a Tyreek Hill type, like you said, it's rare, 6th round pick guy, whatever. You got to find your guy and make sure he's a right fit for you, and trust that your quarterback can elevate some of these guys from being okay to really good. And he's shown signs of that so far in his early career.
It's good you bring up Kyle Williams. This doesn't excuse them from not adding a receiver, but this isn't like Jalen Polk. He didn't produce a ton his first year, and you're moving on.
Good point.
Kyle Williams got buried a little bit. It wasn't great early. I thought he started to make progress later in the year, even if the volume wasn't there. I'm still not entirely convinced. I'm still not convinced he's a non-factor. I still think he can be a player for them. Is he going to be
I think so. Yeah.
that number one? I don't know. That might be a bit of a stretch. Can he be a good contributing secondary receiver? Yeah, I think he can be. So he's still a factor as well, but that doesn't mean I wouldn't dip back into the draft. All right, I see you guys lining up on the phones. We'll get your calls next here as we keep it going. It's Alex Barth and Cerrone Battle on Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff.
Stay tuned for more Sunday Kickoff on the Sports Hub.
What
Want to join us, 617-779-0985. Let's start off with Randy in Providence. Randy.
Hey, good morning, Alex. How are you doing today?
Good.
Listen, I wanted to call in just a couple thoughts on the guys at the Combine and the Patriots stuff. The A.J. Brown thing, too. I really think Philly's just holding out for August. I think those 2027 draft picks are way more valuable than 2026, and it benefits them on both ends, right? They less dead cap hit, and then the better picks. But on the Combine, guys, number one, I called in last week. I criticized your choice of Akeem Mesidor. I don't know if you remember. I talked to you about his size. He came in at 259, so I was incorrect. You were correct.
Happens.
Hey, I just wanted to listen. I'm loud when I'm right, and someone else is wrong.
I appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Right. But a couple other guys that I thought, Anthony Lucas, I expected him at about 280, 285. He came in at 256. Ideal measurements. He didn't test, but he might be a target that would fit really well at the edge position. And DDS, you've been talking about him a lot.
Yes.
He's another guy that had a really good weekend. I think he'd be a really good fit for us in the second round. I'm curious what you think, because I look at the visits that they've had thus far, and I feel like sometimes the visits are revealing, like not even just the players themselves, but what type of players are they visiting with, and it's been a lot of interior defensive line, a lot of interior offensive line, and a lot of edge. And there's a group of cornerback and safety. Those guys seem to me like they're mostly late round options, the cornerbacks and safety, with the exception of Kamari Ramsey, who's probably a day two guy. But it looks to me like defensive edge is where they're planning on going in the first round. I mean, it's pretty much the only, 31-ish range guys that they've met with DDS, Cassius Howell, Mesidor, Parker, Young. There's nobody else really at any position that they've met with that's expected to kind of go in that range. So I think it's kind of revealing about their intentions. The one last guy is Cage Casey. We're obviously going to see the offensive line workouts today. He measured at the Senior Bowl. He's got ideal measurements, played left tackle at Boise State for a long time. I wonder if they've got an eye on him maybe day two-ish, early day three even, at that left guard position. So what do you think about that?
Thanks for the call, Randy. A lot there on the A.J. Brown thing. Yeah, it does make some sense for them to wait. The only problem is that's less resources you have to replace him this year. Mm-hmm. And unless they're willing to commit to a reset year, he's still a 1,000-yard receiver. I know he's not happy. He's not as involved as he was, but that's somebody you need to replace. If they go out and take a receiver in the first round, I think that tells you a lot. Mm-hmm. That may be okay. They're planning for life without him, but they do want to wait. Some of the edge guys you mentioned, I'll say this about the weight. Yeah, Mesidor came in under 260. I never bought that 280 number. I just physically looking at him, I don't know where he was putting 280 pounds. Guys usually do come into the Combine a little lighter, unless there's specifically a question about weight. Like, remember a couple years ago, we talked about Jaden Daniels bulking up? Yeah. They're trying to test well. So you're probably going to run a little faster if you're carrying a little less weight. I kind of mentally add like +5, especially those bigger guys, linemen on either side. It's like, okay, you slim down a little for the Combine to get in shape. You're going to put that back on before your pro day, so you look a little more physically imposing. But no, Mesidor fits their mold. Anthony Lucas was another one that fits their mold. Dennis Sutton, and to his point about the meetings this time of year are telling, like Randy said, what kinds of players are they meeting with? What positions and what range, what prototype? The top 30s are where you really start to get an idea of who they're targeting. So they clearly have a focus on edge. It might be their pick at 31. Let's see. If there's no market for Trey Hendrickson and they get him, maybe that approach changes and they go somewhere else at 31. I do think they're going to take an edge guy in the top 100 regardless. Dennis Sutton, to me, is a fascinating player. I think we talked about him last week. Yep. Had a really good 2024. Now, he was playing across from Abdul Carter. That helps. But he had a really good 2024. Kind of came back to earth in 2025. But the program as a whole suffered. Was he dragged down by that? That's the question teams are going to have to ask themselves. Look at the tape from both years and who's really the player. A good Combine is a good way to prove, hey, I'm better than maybe I showed this past year. And I thought he did that. I'm not saying he should be a first-round pick. The 2025 year still exists, but he's a guy that has flashed first-round ability. So let's say they sign a Boye Mafe or a Trey Hendrickson or Jalen Phillips. Okay, that box is checked. Maybe they decide they want to go safety, or one of those receivers falls, or maybe even a lineman in round 1, and then they're going to revisit it later. Like Dennis Sutton, I love the upside of him on day 2. He's absolutely a player Patriots fans should be aware of. We'll get more into the edge guys a little bit. There's a few more, but I just wanted to mention him because the caller brought him up.
Yeah, I mean, and to your point, he benefited a lot from Abdul Carter. There's some instances where Abdul Carter benefited from him as well.
That's a good point. Abdul Carter, not great this year.
Yeah, we had 2 sacks or something like that this year. So I mean, these guys benefited each other in a lot of these situations. And I would say a similar situation to the program taking a hit is the Clemson guys. I think a lot of eyes kind of came off of them because Clemson wasn't Clemson this year, last couple of years, really. And they've kind of fallen off a lot. But from the Clemson was one of those teams we always watched every week. And I think Parker and a couple other guys there, they're not getting the attention on them. They kind of took a step back because their roster wasn't what it usually is. But there are some players, and like you mentioned, some of these guys have flashed first round talent. Like you look at them and say that's a professional right there. Florida, there's a few guys at Florida, same situation. Florida's hasn't been what they've been. Michigan, Clemson, Penn State. There's many teams. This transfer portal NIL thing kind of dropped a lot of these teams that we used to watch a lot, but there's still some of that talent around, and I think some of these guys are going to slide. And if the Patriots really do their homework here, I think they can hit on a lot of guys in the middle of this draft and not really just the first round. So I'm really intrigued by this. But, yeah, I think you're spot on with the situation with Abdul Carter and Penn State. I mean, I think they really benefited each other. But we'll see. Time will tell with the Abdul Carter.
Let's grab one more call here before we hit the headlines. Dan in Rhode Island. Dan, good morning.
Hey, guys.
Hey.
Real quick. For the life of me, I just was listening to Schefter on San Francisco. Why is the name Brandon Aiyuk not being brought up at all? He's about to be released, they said. And Schefter said one of the top 3 places for him to land was Buffalo, the Patriots, or I think Pittsburgh was the other one. He's fully healthy right now. If I had to pick Stephon Diggs at 33, A.J. Brown at $30 million, giving up a premium pick, or buy low on Brandon Aiyuk, who's just about to turn 28 on a prove-it deal, $20 million or whatever, I would take Brandon Aiyuk 6 ways to Sunday, 7. And, I just don't understand why his name hasn't even come up yet. He's a good receiver, and he's going to have a lot to prove. Why isn't anyone talking about this guy? That's it.
Thanks for the call, Dan.
You got to ask why San Fran doesn't want him around.
Right. Where are you at?
That's where it starts.
It's a good point. And this is a guy that's 2 years removed from a 1,000-yard season. Played 7 games. Remember, he wasn't playing well in 2024 before he got hurt. There were questions about his focus in camp that year. Comes back last year, can't get back. The Niners void his guaranteed money because remember, they didn't know where he was.
Yeah.
He stopped showing up. And then there's that video of him speeding by the stadium. Now, look, if you tell me
it's more than what's on the field.
Right. If you tell me they can sign him for a minimum contract and bring him in and see where he's at, by all means, sure, have at it. Mm-hmm. I'm not actually committing anything to Brandon Aiyuk at this point. We haven't seen him play at a high level since 2023. That is a long time in the NFL.
Yeah.
So.
And one thing you got to factor in, the question with Aiyuk from the very beginning was a question I had. How good is he really when he's not surrounded by, it was prime Deebo Samuel on one side. He had George Kittle, had the best offensive line in football, had the best running back in football. It was talent all over that team and a defense that was giving him the ball back over and over again. So he was just running free one-on-one all the time because all the attention was everywhere else. He gets the big money. He stays there. And like you said, it was like, well, okay, what happened to Brandon Aiyuk here? He kind of fell off. The talent around him, they had injuries, they had other issues, and then he gets hurt, and that was a couple years ago. And if his advantage was his speed and his agility and having a step on somebody, well, the kind of injury he suffered takes that step away. So now people are kind of questionable of what kind of player is he? Can he be the number one guy? There's a lot going on with Brandon Aiyuk. And I think a lot of teams like, you know what? I'm just not going to touch it. I'll let somebody else deal with that experiment right now.
Yeah, and again, he tore his ACL and MCL. Look, one of these wide receiver needy teams, the Patriots, the Bills, whoever, like he'll end up there. He'll be on
he'll
the
land
roster.
somewhere. Yeah,
but I don't think he's like. It's not all right. We cut Stephon Diggs, but we brought in Brandon Aiyuk. I don't feel better about the wide receiver situation. Like let's say it's Diggs out, Aiyuk in. Patriots better, worse, or the same at receiver?
I think they're worse.
I would agree with you on that. I mean, Penn. Now who knows if they go and do other things, whatever. But
now if you keep them both, and now he's now say you're Matt Collins or somebody in that caliber in that group of receivers. Yeah, you've improved your room.
Now I'm a little more interested.
Yes. But as your featured number one, no. Yeah, I'm out on that.
He's got to be in addition to. He's not your big wide receiver addition. You're adding him to somebody else. All right, we added this guy, and we're going to see what Brandon Aiyuk can do at this point. Because again, it was a significant injury. It was ACL and MCL.
Yeah.
And I there was reporting at the time that whatever the degrees are, I don't know, I'm not a knee doctor, but like it was a upper degree kind of injury. So, but I guess he'll be a name to watch. Add him to the list. Speaking of lists of names to watch, we got to get to some of these prospects, Cerrone. A lot of hype around this group at the Combine. I do have a caveat to put on that, though, that I think a lot of people are missing. We'll get to that after these headlines. 90 seconds, no commercials here on Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff.
From the Town Fair Tire Studios, Dutcher and Hardy, Owen Beetle, Felger and Matt.
(617) 779-0985. I will add this, though, Cerrone. It's Alex Barth, Cerrone Battle, Ryan Garver behind the glass. A lot was hyped up on the broadcast. A lot was being made. It's the fastest class ever. And look how athletic these guys are. And, all the positions besides quarterback.
I know exactly what you're going to say.
Have tested as like the fastest average 40 times in the history of the Combine, which is objectively true. And I tip my cap to those who ran.
Say it.
There's a little survivorship bias going on here. This is also, in addition to being the fastest class, I don't remember a year where this few players ran.
Yeah.
Or this few players tested overall. A lot of guys sitting out the combine now. So we got to factor that in. And I don't love it. But let's just make a note of it. There's a little asterisk next to
a big one, in my opinion. A big, because they kind of hinted at it yesterday.
Yeah.
And it was like, yeah, anybody who thinks they can't run say the corners and the skill position guys. Everybody who felt they couldn't run under a 4.5, 4.6 basically just sat out.
Right.
And it was
like, wow, there's no 4.7s. Yeah, because the 4.7 guys aren't running.
They're not running. So it was only the fast guys that ran. The guys who already knew they were fast going into it and already knew they could run 4.4s and 4.3s. Those are the only guys that ran. Same thing with the edge rushers and the linebacker. Oh, it's the fastest linebackers we've ever seen. It was like, yeah, because the slow ones are at home. So I mean, it's weird, but I hate the fact that was the biggest trending thing yesterday. It was just the fastest combine ever. They're bigger, stronger, faster than we've ever seen. And it's like, yeah, but it was like 8 guys running the 40. And what happened to the other 20 guys that's supposed to be out here? But it was, the guys who did run, I think some of them did themselves some favors. Brazel, you mentioned. I'm more impressed with the fact that guy is 6'5", moving like that. I think I don't know if it's a good comp, a great comp. I think he could be like a T. Higgins kind of player. Really tall, really long arms, big strides. He doesn't look fast until you realize he's 2 steps ahead going up that sideline. And a real playmaker once he gets the ball in his hands. 1,000-yard receiver. I think he had like 10 touchdowns last year for Tennessee. Very dangerous guy in the open field. And again, SEC guy, did it against SEC talent. I think he did himself a real favor. Now, there's other guys who I don't know if they're really good. They're just fast. And I heard Michael Irvin bring this up, and I think it's a good point. We can't get just too caught up on the 40 time and say that guy's an all-pro.
So this is what –
sorry, go ahead.
Sorry to cut you off. This is what I always say when I do Catch 22 with Evan Lazar, which you can check out on Patriots.com. So Evan, the 3 fastest guys or 4 fastest guys in the combine, Evan always really likes. So we play this game called Fast and. Okay, he ran a good 40 time, but you have to be able to finish the sentence. He's fast and and if you can't finish the sentence, then he's not a realistic prospect. So there's a lot of what I call fast and guys.
You want to get faster? Grab fast guys.
And right. So sorry, continue. I just you brought up. I had to cut in with that.
It's for Brandon Thompson, the 4.2, 4.26, whatever it was. Man, my God, he's fast. It's like, yeah, but I'd rather have Brazel because he's 6'5". You know what I'm saying? Like,
right. And he's been a route runner and a lot of things. Yeah.
He's red zone. I'm looking at the Patriots perspective. I think they need the big target guy. He's not a tight end, but at 6'5" with those measurables, yeah, put him out there. I don't know why the kid's name is slipping my mind. The receiver the quarterback from Arkansas. I draft him just to have him on my team. That is an athletic. Green. That guy is a meta-human. I mean, it was incredible. My whole family, my wife doesn't even watch football. They were all sitting there like, what is that? Like, that thing doesn't look real. And when he had a vertical leap like Michael Jordan, looked like Vince Carter.
So he had a 43.5-inch vertical quarterback record for shattered Anthony Richardson's record. 4.36 40 is the fastest for a quarterback at the combine. He had 11-foot 2-inch broad jump. He did say, though, Stacey Dales asked him if he would work out at wide receiver or tight end for teams. By the way, he did all that at 6'6", 227 pounds.
Jesus.
He does not want to work out at wide receiver. He said he's quarterback, and that's what he's going to do. And he's supposed to go in the middle rounds, like early day 3. So he'll get some looks, but he doesn't. Maybe it comes to it eventually. There's definitely a wide receiver profile there. And by the way, you could say the same about Haynes King from Georgia Tech, who ran a 4.47.
I like him. I watched him play a lot of football. He's a good player. He's a really good player.
He's probably more like there's some Taysom Hill there.
Yeah.
He's not as polished of a quarterback, and he's older, I believe, than Taylon Green is. So he might end up getting some looks at tight end, running back, special teams, whatever. It sounds like Taylon Green wants to play quarterback. And look, all the power to him. I understand why he wants to play that position. I hold nothing against him. But I'm with you. You can't watch him and not think what could be.
That kid, if he does become an accurate quarterback,
yeah,
he's built like Cam Newton and he's still young.
He's a problem.
he's going to be a real problem with that kind of speed and size. In the open field, what do you do? I mean, he's like Gronk when he's in the open field, but at the same time, at 6'6", he can see over the offensive line. In his arms, he can scratch his knees without bending over. The kid he's an incredible athlete, and I'll be intrigued by preseason games. I want to watch him when I'm at home.
That's what I was thinking. Hopefully Patriots, whoever drafts him, let's get the Patriots against him in the preseason. We're talking about these guys that were just like out of nowhere freaky testers.
Ohio State in general.
Well, that was, unbelievable. Sonny Styles, Arvell Reed should probably be the second overall pick. I know David Bailey tested very well too. Arvell Reed to the Jets makes a ton of sense.
Sonny and Lorenzo Styles had absolute standout.
Yeah, Lorenzo Styles is kind of a fast and guy for me. But
he's fast and he's really fast.
Unbelievable speed. Jeff Caldwell is who I wanted to bring up, though. From Cincinnati, 6'5", 216, 42-inch vertical, 4'3", 140 with a 1.48 split, which is insane. It's insane.
It's terrible.
The thing with him, though, is so he came in projected as a UDFA. He played 3 years at Linwood, FCS, which not Lindenwood, which was not bad. Goes to Cincinnati last year, had like 30 catches. So he's incredibly raw and kind of older, but you look at the tools, holy cow. So he was a projected late day through UDFA, has this combine. Again, he's built. That's the other thing. He's strong. We'll see what he does for the bench press today. But like, my mind goes to Tyquan Thornton was a late day 3 pick, kind of raw, ran a crazy 40, goes right around the top 50. I'll be interested to see where Jeff Caldwell ends up going. And are any teams going to look at that combine and look, he should get drafted because there's tremendous physical tools to work with.
Yeah.
But is some team going to just start drooling over just the combine? And is he going to go way higher than expected?
He reminds me of a lot of the kid at South Carolina. I think he'd be up next year, Nick Harbor.
Nick Harbor, yeah.
Was he 6'5", 244?
Yeah, but Nick Harbor's played a few. So Jeff Caldwell played
more.
One year of FBS ball at Cincinnati last year in 13 games. He caught 32 passes for 478 yards and 6 touchdowns. So, the touchdown to reception ratio is excellent. 6 touchdowns on 32 catches. But he only had 32 catches.
Yeah.
In a system that throws the ball a good amount.
Yeah, he's like you said, he's raw. There's somebody that's going to see him and say, I can turn him into something.
Right.
I can turn him into, we can use him as a deep ball guy early and develop the other stuff late. But I think if he's there and you're sitting there like, hey, let's say, he'll end up somewhere like Kansas City. You just know it's going to happen. You know it's going to happen. He's going to get 2,000 yards in 10 games, something crazy. He's going to end up somewhere in Kansas City or with Josh Allen, and we're going to be sitting there shaking our heads like, wow, how did they end up with that guy? It's already there. Oh, he's going to end up with McVay or something like that. But
he also he's got to get coached up. He has to be able to play.
Yeah,
that's the thing. So to me, it's like the Patriots aren't going to get Jordan Tyson, but Jordan Tyson is like the speed size combo X, right? 50-50 ball guy with speed. Jordan Tyson's at the top of the draft. Then you have Chris Brazzell, who's like the late first, early second round version of that guy. Yeah. Ted Hurst from Georgia State had a very good combine, is like the late day 2, early day 3 version of that guy. And then you have Jeff Caldwell, who's the flyer at that position.
Yeah. Would you take Brazzell at 31?
There's an argument for it. I got to see what they do with Diggs.
Yeah,
I think there's a case, and how do the edge guys fall? I think there's a case to be made for it. Let me put it this way: I don't think it would be a bad pick. Yeah, I don't know if it would be my first choice,
but if he's there,
but I wouldn't be saying, oh, they screwed up if they take him at 31 either. I could see it.
I'm big on Concepcion. I'm like I said, a huge fan of his. He was at State and watched him play a lot.
Yeah,
but I don't think he's going to be there. I think
I know.
He was too smooth. He was just really smooth out there yesterday.
I don't think him
whatever it was.
Or Denzel Boston are going to be there.
They're just too smooth.
I think you're looking
too
at
easy.
Omar Cooper, And I don't like Malachi Fields I'm out on. Zachariah Branch doesn't make sense. That's just Pop Douglas. Like you have that guy.
Yep.
So if you're going to take a receiver at 31, to me, it's Omar Cooper or Chris Brazzell. I will say, Jeremy Bernard impressed me. I did not think he was going to move that well. I wouldn't take him at 31, but trade back, take him in the 40s. I could maybe be sold on that. But at 31, to me, the wide receivers are probably Brazzell or Omar Cooper.
Yeah, and I'm big on Brazzell again. The size, his arm length, his height, his leaping ability. I think those are things that Drake May needs. He needs big targets. I think he needs another big guy out there.
It's the size, but it's not just the size. I think a lot of people are going to look at, okay, he's the outside Tennessee receiver and Jalen Hyatt and who was the other guy? It's been kind of that same sort of player. Yeah. You go back and watch Brazzell at Tulane. He's much more developed as a route runner, and he's much more physical. He can win those jump balls than some of those other guys. He's not just size and speed, which is what I think sets him apart. Look, he fits the mold of that Tennessee guy. That's why Tennessee went and got him in the portal. But he can do a little more than some of those other guys. All right, we're way up against it. We're going to take a break, come back, talk about some of the defensive players we liked in the Combine. We'll do that next here on Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff.
More Sunday Kickoff is on the way.
The defense was the star of the combine. The Dylan Thieneman from Oregon, outstanding safety. Came in projected fringe first, second round pick. Maybe played himself out of the Patriots range. Even if Jalen Hawkins comes back, though, I'd consider taking him at 31 if he's there. I really would. I was
going to say second round, but yeah, he might not make it.
Oh, he's not getting a 63, like you heard there. One suit run. He's going in the first round. And Emmanuel McNeil-Warren from Toledo, who's the safety that was projected at, in that same range, I thought Thieneman was better. And you add the Oregon pedigree and all of that. Yeah. Caleb Downs is going to be the first safety off the board. I think he might be the best player in the draft. Thieneman, to me, should be the second safety off the board. I was really impressed by him.
Holy safety is right.
But I thought it was a good showing from the class. AJ Halsey from LSU, he ran a 4.5. People might look at that in this class and be like, ugh. Watch his gauntlet. The gauntlet drill, which is where they run sideline to sideline, and there's balls being thrown at them from each side. A lot of evaluators talk about that because there's just so many skills that go into it. Hand-eye coordination, footwork, speed, hands. It's just a lot. Change of direction. He crushed that. And he might, you talk about just what guys look like at the combine. Looks the part of a guy that's going to live over the middle and be a pain in the ass. VJ Payne from Kansas State, I was really impressed with. I still think the Patriots should take a safety even if Jalen Hawkins comes back.
I agree, and I've just been a fan since I've been into watching football. Safeties was always a position I was always attracted to. One of my favorite players ever is Ed Reed. I just think what you mentioned, the change of direction and being able to watch a safety when they show the overhead camera, look like he's beat one way or read the play wrong, and to watch him change his hips and change directions and make a play on the ball is an incredible thing to see. And that's you can't measure that with straight line speed, but being able to change direction and recognize what's in front of you and almost bait quarterbacks into making, what they think is a great decision into a bad one is an incredible skill to have. And I think if the Patriots had a real ball hawking safety back there, we've seen it over the years when they've won their Super Bowls, they've had a guy back there that was just incredible vision. Should be Hall of Famer Rodney Harrison. We'll get that's it. We always get over that. Wilson back. Sorry, I just draw a blank there. McCourty, another one with just great vision back there, just recognizing what he sees. And over the years, Polamalu, Bob Sanders, all these guys are great safeties. I think having a great safety back there makes a huge difference on your defense and just recognizes everything. And even if they keep Hawkins, like you said, I'm still out of any position in the secondary. That's the one that I'm absolutely would address this offseason and through the draft.
Love a good Bob Sanders reference. And the other thing is Daniel Jeremiah on the broadcast shares he gets a text from an NFL executive. Tough year to be a free agent safety with all the way these guys were testing. So maybe that helps them get Hawkins back. How about the edge rushers? You ready to do this again? So Cassius Howell looks like a fit for the Patriots, plays the way they want the position played, projected late first round pick.
Another meta-human.
Except 30 and a quarter inch arms, shortest by an edge rusher at the combine since at least 2003. Reuben Bain came in at 31 inches. There hasn't been a guy taken in the top 100 with arms like that. I'll say what I said last year. It's not nothing. It's a factor. It matters. But it matters to the extent that put on the tape, watch the player. How does he compensate for it? If he struggles to compensate for it, you move on. Just like a player who struggles with any other trait. If he's still making plays, well then okay, he has to way to make it work. If NFL teams are dumb enough to let Reuben Bain fall to 31, by all means. Frankly, by the time he hits like 22 or 23, I'm trading up.
Yeah.
Even with Howell, I like Mesidor better. Frankly, I kind of felt that way before the arms. What would you rather have? A guy with short arms or a guy who's 25? So there's that. And then Zion Young's in the mix too. He's had some off the field issues. That's picking at 31, but you ready to do the short arm thing again?
Not with Cassius Howell.
No?
Out.
No, I'm not doing. No, I mean I'm taking him. I'm not arguing.
Yeah.
I mean the opposite. Like you be yelling at a wall with me on that one. Like, I'm not even worried about that.
It's all over the place too. Sorry to jump in. Even at tight end, like Sam Roush to me, I know a lot of people were drooling over the combine that Eli Stowers had, and he was great. Kenyon Sadiq too. They're not getting Kenyon Sadiq. He's going top 15. Eli Stowers though, like he's a slot receiver. He doesn't block. Even as a receiver, he's not that physical. Sam Roush is the guy. 6'6", 250 plus, lines up in line, blocks his ass off, is good in a route, can catch the ball. He had a great combine in terms of testing explosiveness, athleticism, all of that. Again, big dude, except he has 30-inch arms. It's going around. It's contagious. I don't care. If they can play, they can play. Draft Howell and Sam Roush. And that's a good draft. If they end up with those two guys, they did well.
Cassius Howell, if you watch him play, just go to YouTube and watch him play. And you find me a clip where you're like, you know what? That short arm got him. That 1 inch on his arm really got him. I think he's one of the fastest defensive ends ever measured. I mean,
he had a great combine besides the arm measurement.
Besides the arms, his body, he's strong.
And he has short arms. That's the argument.
Well, the first one-on-one between him and Campbell in camp, people are going to get their.
I mean, we are literally one Roman Anthony injury away from short arm talk all summer long.
Again.
Yeah, again, but no, if that guy's there, I'm screaming at the TV for them to take him. And I'm pretty sure they'll. If he's there, they'll snatch him up quickly. He's a really good player. He's one of the dream guys I have on my list, but I think he'll be gone by then. I've told you before, I'm big on Parker. I like both of the Clemson guys, Peter Woods and Parker. Peter Parker. I'm sorry, just a big kid here. I like Banks as well from Florida, and of course Mesidor.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, any one of those guys I'd be really cool with because I think they're in need, and I think they're pretty explosive players. And again, you had Florida, Clemson, down years. The program has been down, so they don't get the attention that they would normally get. If Florida was Florida, Banks' name would be all over the place. Same thing with Clemson. If they were a playoff team, we'd be talking about Woods. Well, Woods was going to go pretty high. Woods and Parker. But with Mesidor, we saw him on the national stage with Miami's run. But any one of those guys, I'd be completely cool with if the Patriots are able to snag one of them in the first or second round.
One more. The linebacker position tested very well. Elliott Wolf said this week they want to draft a linebacker. Jacob Rodriguez, you're probably going to need to take him at 63 if you want him.
Yep.
If he's even there, he'd be awesome in the middle of this defense. My guy Kyle Lewis, I thought, had a good combine. He might be a safety. But that hybrid safety linebacker thing, that's going to be a thing. That's what teams are going to look for after Nick Eamon-Worry. Torian York from Texas A&M, another player that fits that mold. I thought had a good combine, so another position maybe worth tapping into. All right, we got you guys lining up on the phones. We'll grab your calls next here. It's Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff.
More Sunday Kickoff coming up on the Sports Hub.
Or Tony in Canada. Tony.
Hey, guys.
Hey.
Quick thought here. Big view picture. I heard something last week. Someone had made a prediction that the Pats were one of 4 teams that he thought would not make the playoffs the next year after going to the Super Bowl. And the more I thought about it, the more I thought that is actually a possibility. So I just want to run these things by you and then get your view, which you're already familiar with. But last year we drafted 4th. This year 31st.
Yeah.
Last year we spent over $300 million. I think it was about. And now we're talking about, I called in last week how Kraft had talked about, or there was news that Kraft had a 3-year cycle, and this was the 3rd year. So it'll be a down year for spending. Last year, you mentioned, Barth, that we got like 6 or 7 key free agent additions.
Yeah.
This year, we're talking about losing people like Diggs, Chason, Tonga. So the question is, are we going to actually be stronger or weaker with our free agent signing this year compared to last? And we had the easiest schedule since 1999 last year. This year we're 5th toughest. Not to mention how we talked about how KC and Baltimore and other teams that were expected to make the playoffs they had a down year. So they're going to be gearing up, because there's no way they're going to want to miss the playoffs again. Is this everything lining up so that it's a possibility that we may not make the playoffs after going to the Super Bowl? And the last thought is this. I think the key contributor, when I look at it, is Kraft, whether Kraft really wants to go after those key free agents in those key positions. But it's going to be a lot tougher this year than last. And we know when we build through the draft, those draft picks, they typically don't contribute right out in the first year. It takes a while. So I'm just going to listen to the rest of the show. Go Pats.
Thanks for the call, Tony. I mean, look, it's going to be tougher. You've heard people say, and I kind of agree with this, they could be a better football team with the worst record. To the free agency thing, they added 6, 7 starters last year. You don't lose those guys this year. They don't need to add 6 to 7 free agents. And as Mark Daniels told us earlier, it's really not a good free agency class. I don't know that the depth is there to have the free agency they had last year. Now, they still need to add a couple contributors. It doesn't sound like they're going to add a guard, which is disappointing. But if they're going to add a starting edge guy, right, to replace Chason, and then you add in the draft, that's an upgrade. We'll see where else they add. Spending $300 million in this free agency class, I don't know how much you're getting for that $300 million.
You're just doing it just to do it.
Right, with who's available. So, I don't think they're going to totally ignore it. It's also, I don't know if it's the last year of the 3-year cycle or whatever. They didn't really spend their biggest free agent signing the previous year, the Gerard Mayo year, was Antonio Gibson.
Yeah.
So, I'm sure they borrowed from the future last year when they spent all the money they did. I don't think the coffer's empty. And just point about the schedule, it's a harder schedule. The Ravens and Chiefs are going to be gearing up, so should the Patriots, and we'll see what it ends up being. Like last year going in, the Patriots schedule was easy. It wasn't supposed to be the easiest in 2 decades.
Right. The other teams just ended up being bad. That's not the Patriots' fault.
So we'll see. And finally, and most importantly, and I don't mean to pick everything apart. I'm just, we ask these questions, I'm answering them. You do want draft picks to contribute right away. That is supposed to be the goal. Yeah. It hasn't happened here in a while, and that's a big part of the reason they've struggled as much as they have. You got instant impacts on draft picks last year, Will Campbell, Craig Woodson, and that's, those are
Henderson.
2 important players in Henderson, that's right. So, no, the goal should be that not all of them, are right. The 7th round pick, unless you're picking a special teams guy, which, by the way, kicker and linebacker, too, in the draft last year. I'm not going to fault them that Marcus Bryant didn't contribute. That's not the plan, but your top 100 picks should be, and then if you can get 1 or 2 more later on, you're in really good shape. Most of their top 100 picks contributed last year. Kyle Williams is the lone exception. He had some big moments, but he wasn't a steady contributor. And then again, you had Craig Woodson in the 4th round who gave you something. So the goal should be draft picks contributing right away. And then internal growth as well. Craig Woodson should be better. Will Campbell should be better. Even Drake May, like some of the guys going to their third year,
they're going to get better.
You're a young team. You should be counting on internal growth as well.
And to his point about the schedule and these other teams gearing up, they got the same free agent class you have. There's not a lot of talent for some of these teams that were bad to just automatically say, we're going to just, build up. But I mean, their schedule, on paper, it looks like it's tough. Vegas, they're going to have a rookie quarterback. Minnesota, we're not sure what their quarterback situation is going to look like. You still got the Jets and Dolphins. There's 4 games on your schedule. Kansas City, you could get Kansas City when Mahomes is not even back yet. Like, you don't know what you're going to get out of that. The Chargers could be good. We don't know. Jacksonville, they could lose Brian Thomas. ETN's a free agent. They have free agents on the defensive line. They have things that they have to take care of as well. Buffalo still doesn't have receivers, and a lot of these teams have issues. And some of these teams, a good portion of them, the Steelers, don't have a quarterback. They have new head coaches as well. So, yeah, on paper, you see the names of, Kansas City, the Chargers. Yeah, but Pittsburgh, again, doesn't have the new coach. There's a lot of moving pieces of some of these other teams. And some of these teams, you were better than them last year. And I don't think it's easy to say those teams are just going to leapfrog you this year because they're supposed to be there. They have to fill holes with the same draft, with the same free agent class as you. And they have other issues as far as coaching changes, injuries, free agents on their own roster, quarterback situations. But yeah, on paper, they can be good. The Seahawks, if they lose Kenneth Walker, are the Seahawks and Kenneth Walker and Rashid Shaheed. That's not the same team you played in the Super Bowl without Kenneth Walker and Rashid Shaheed. So they could take a step back as well. So you just, again, I wouldn't put any stock in that until September, and we see who's on these teams, who was added, who was traded, who got hurt in training camp. All those things are going to happen. But I think we should wait before we say, these teams are going to be tough to beat before the season starts.
Let's go to Pete in Pembroke. Pete.
Hey, morning, fellas. How are you?
Morning.
Just quick 2 things I want to throw at you, right? First one is a name, Barth, Jalen Kilgore. I think he's a great back-the-box safety. Curious on your thoughts on him. Second point is this Messidor guy. I'm seeing that he's going to be 25 come April. Is that too old for a first-round pick come second contract time? We're going to be kicking the tires if he's worth it? I'll hang up and listen. Thanks, fellas. Have a good day.
Thanks for the call, Pete. Yeah, Kilgore's a good player. Kind of one of those hybrids, which it seems like they're looking for. Elliot Wolf talked about wanting safeties that can do a little bit of everything, and Kilgore certainly fits that description. Honestly, you see him some places listed as a corner, but 6'1", 200 pounds, so he's got the size for it. Yeah, early day 3 pick, I think would make a lot of sense. And then Messidor, yeah, if you're picking in the top 10, you probably want a guy that's a little bit younger, but at the very end of the first round, you're starting to run into guys that have those sorts of questions. I'll phrase it again. If it's Akeem Messidor at 25 or Cassius Howell with short arms, that's kind of what you're choosing between. Yeah. For a team that, to go back to what we were just talking about, kind of wants to capitalize on momentum and keep things rolling.
Get the guy that's more pro ready.
Right. There are upsides to a guy being older, too. You look at the quarterback position, like what Bo Nix did or what Tyler Shuck did last year. So it's not ideal. Because, by the time he gets his second contract, he's going to be 29, 30. I think in the spot the Patriots are in and for how talented he is, you get 5 good years out of him, I'll worry about that in 5 years. That's okay. There's worse things to worry about, especially, when you have these big deals coming for Gonzalez and for May. And, all right, if you have one first-round pick that plays well but maybe doesn't get that big contract like some other guys do, all right, you still got 5 good years out of him. So, again, not ideally what you're looking for, but at 31, you're not going to get ideally what you're looking for. I don't think it's disqualifying or anything like that.
Yeah, he's real quick, some of these guys, some of these positions, if he's 25 years old, he's more of a plug-and-play guy. He's going to be more fundamentally sound. He's seen a lot of football. He's seen a lot of coverages in whatever position that may be. Look, Carson Beck, he's not going to go high, but I'm pretty sure wherever he goes, he's going to have an advantage on somebody because he's seen a lot of football and he's going to be able to pick things up quicker in the meetings and things like that. So there's some value in some of these guys being a little older than others.
Let's go to Joe in Boston. Joe.
Hey, guys. Good morning.
Morning.
I want to talk about the potential of Gonzalez not getting extended. Now, first I want to say I'm a Gonzalez guy. I think he's a top 3 corner. But I don't think they're going to do it for two reasons. One, I don't think Kraft is going to want to spend over $35 million on a player with the straight May contract coming up. And two, I don't think they want to sign him if they're not going to be an exclusive man team or a majority man team. So if they were to get a Sauce Gardner offer, say 2 first-round picks or 1 first-round picks and some other stuff, I think they have to jump at that. I mean, I think you can utilize the 2 first-round picks to get a stud edge and maybe even be able to trade up to get one of these top receivers like a Lemon or Concepcion. What do you guys think?
Yeah, Joe, the reporting out of the combine makes it sound like they're going to re-sign him.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm
matter of time.
Yeah, I'm thinking that that's the case. If they don't, yeah, you can't let him walk for nothing. And the Sauce Gardner package is the absolute minimum you should get. He's a better player than Gardner. Frankly, you should get a little bit more.
Yeah.
But
after
yeah,
his playoff run, they give you the world for him right about now.
Just pay him. I do think they're going to play a good amount of man moving forward.
Yeah.
I do think the defense they had in the playoffs is kind of the defense we're going to see from them. So I'm not worried about that.
Yeah, I think that defense is all set. But there's something I wanted to ask you earlier.
Yeah.
When you talked about guys, Kaysam and some of these other guys, Tonga, taking his deal off the table, and with Mark Daniels we talked about earlier. Do you think the Patriots, in some ways, with their own players, are kind of a victim of their own success? Like, do you think these guys would be chasing the bag somewhere else if they were a bad football team or kind of played what we thought they would be, 7-8 win team or something like that? Do you think them being that good have a lot of their own free agents say, you know what, I'm going to go out and get the bag now. I kind of had some success. Everybody saw me on the national stage. Do you think they've kind of been victimized of their own success and being good?
No, just because, nobody's clamoring over, and no offense to him, nobody's clamoring over Austin Hooper, right?
Yeah, good point.
Chason had a great year. He's part of the reason they were so good. Tonga had a great surprise year, and it's part of the reason they were so good. So, when you're good, people are going to want your players more because you probably have good players. Gonzalez is going to get paid either way. I mean, Gonzalez
he's
tremendous player.
Right.
So, I mean, in a sense, I guess a little bit, but it's kind of a chicken or the egg thing, right? Would the Patriots have been that good without K'Lavon Chaisson having the season he did, or without Khyiris Tonga having the season he did? I think it's, credit to the players for giving the team what they did. Let's go to Patty and Agawam. Patty.
Hey, good morning, guys. How are you?
Morning.
Hey, Sam. I'm with you on Sam Roush, Alex, Tim Delp, or Eli Raritan. Give me those guys. Give me one of those guys. I'll be happy and sign a tight end in free agency. Pete kind of stole a little bit of my thunder on Jalen Kilgore because he's one of my kind of under the radar favorite players in this draft. But the question I wanted to pose to you guys was between Brian Thomas Jr. and AJ Brown, if both guys are available, if both are relatively the same price, who would you pick? Me personally, I would go with the younger guy in Brian Thomas Jr. Brown's behavior and Philly gives me pause. I know Bree reported it, so I take it with a little bit of a grain of salt, but the whole degenerative knee condition kind of gives me a little bit of pause too, because if you're going to invest in this guy and pay him, you want him to produce at a high level, at the level that he's kind of produced at over the last 5 years. And I'll take that off there, guys, and go Pats.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Patty. If it's two guys, if it's between two guys, you take the younger guy.
Yeah.
You take Brian Thomas Jr. every time.
Yeah.
Now, the part of the reason the Combine Week is good is we get all these rumors and all this talk. You also get, what did we not hear about? If the Brian Thomas Jr. thing was real, I think we would have heard more about it this week. We really, unless I missed it, I really didn't hear a ton, if anything, about that being a possibility. So maybe that was just a pipe dream or whatever. I don't know, again, how realistic it is that he's available.
Yeah, he's a good player. I mean, he had his down year with 700 yards or something like that. I mean, he's a good player. You've seen the flashes. He lit you up. But last year, whenever it was, you played them. But he's a really good player, really explosive, and you can only imagine what he would look like with Drake May. The receivers they brought into Jacksonville have turned Trevor Lawrence's career around. We didn't know where that was going to go for a while, and then last season it all kind of it all kind of came together for him. But I would take Brian Thomas. Give me the younger guy. Give me the explosive guy. You get more years out of him. And he's another young guy that you can grow with your young quarterback. And we talked about that last week with Marvin Harrison Jr. If he's available, of course you pair him up with Drake May, and you have your offensive core going forward for a long time. But yeah, give me Brian Thomas over A.J. Brown any day right now.
All right, final call of the show. Kenny G in Atlanta. Kenny.
Man, good morning. Well, it's always great to speak to you and, my guys Jerome there and all of my guys. Hey, here's where I'm at. I'm narrowing down to March 3rd because this is the conversation I keep hearing. Alex Pierce. Well, is he going to be franchised? We're going to find out real soon. The people, I'm shocked no one's talking about Michael Pittman like if he's a scrub. Michael Pittman was the one there. And when it comes to, this is what I'm wondering, I would like the Patriots to kind of have this approach. Do defense like Houston, Denver, and Seattle. You know what Seattle does? Seattle got that hybrid linebacker type of safety, like Dylan Thinman. Is that him out of Oregon? I love him. I would put him on the Pats. I'll hang up and listen. God bless y'all guys. Love you.
Thanks for the call.
Thank you, man.
I think we talked about Pittman last week. I would be in on the Patriots kicking the tires on Michael Pittman. I wouldn't give up the first round pick for him, but
good player.
That could be an outlet like we've talked about. It's going to be hard to add a wide receiver this offseason. That could be an outlet to add a guy if the Colts decide, hey, we're going to pay Alec Pierce and move on from Michael Pittman, who's a little bit older. Thieneman to me is a true safety, really good player. Would like him on the Patriots. If you want that hybrid guy, right, if you're looking for that guy that's kind of in between, the two names to me in the top 100 are A.J. Halsey from LSU and then Kyle Lewis from Pitt. And I think the Patriots should go that route. I'd like to see them do more three safety stuff, but you need the guy to do it, and those guys aren't easy to find.
Yeah, and then to the point of Pittman, I think that's where you can possibly find something this offseason. Everybody's looking for the big names. I think they could swing smaller deals for a lot of guys that would be number twos around the league. But with this roster that you have now, some of the twos that are around the league would be, I'm going to say ones for you, but would be good players and good fits for you.
If you get an outside guy with Diggs in the slot, that kind of setup.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's where they can end up going. We all want the big name. We all want the top dog. But I think there are going to be guys available around the league that aren't the 1,500-yard receiver type players capable of being that good, but would be great fits for you. And I think that's key, and I think that's where this team is. You won a lot of games last year. You reached the Super Bowl. Now find the right pieces that fit you and not so much of a fantasy roster that I think a lot of fans want. Just build your – look at the team that just beat you. I mean, it was – their best receiver did nothing, and yet you had no answer for them. So, I mean, if you build the right team and a good fit for you, if you win a game 10-7, so be it. But as long as you're winning that every week, I think people will be fine with that. But build the roster around your quarterback and your needs and not so much the fantasy roster that a lot of people want.
Any other thoughts from the combine, from the workouts?
No, I think it's up to this pro day time now. I mean, we're going to see the linemen. We're going to see who's out there. I did notice.
So a lot of guys are measuring in with short arms on the line.
Yeah, all of a sudden that's a hot thing now.
It's coming in right now. Caleb Lomu, who's one of the top tackles in the draft, coming in at 32 and a quarter. So that's well under Will Campbell. And it seems like the measurements are lining up more this year. It's not perfect, but remember last year we had that whole thing about the measurements were off with the Senior Bowl. Yeah. So one more thing. Not a good year to need a quarterback. I know a lot of people were impressed with Ty Simpson yesterday.
Yeah.
I thought he was fine. I had some flashbacks to J.J. McCarthy. It wasn't as egregious, but like
I almost sent you a tweet about that. Like, oh, we've got our J.J. McCarthy this year. It's Ty Simpson.
Like he was fine. He was solid. He was better than McCarthy at the combine, but like, oh my God, look at this. And he's also small. Yeah. I don't. He'll probably go first round, especially since the Jets have 2 picks. I'm not saying it can't be good. I don't see it the way some other people see it with him, though.
Yeah,
I don't know.
They're talking him up. It's Zach Wilson. It's J.J. McCarthy. Every year there's a guy, and I think this year it's going to be his.
The thing about this year is like McCarthy and who's the other one you said? Wilson were in these like quarterback heavy drafts. They need a QB2 this year. There's so many teams that need a quarterback. And the free agency class stinks, so they're trying to like create a QB2. I guess he is like by default. It reminds me a little bit, and maybe the circumstances were different. The Kenny Pickett year,
Yep.
Where Malik Willis was talked about as a first-round pick, and then he went like the 4th. Now, he's going to be one of the hottest names in free agency, oddly enough, coming into this year. But, like, is Ty Simpson a first-round pick because he's a first-round pick talent, or is he a first-round pick because he's the second-best quarterback in a draft in a year where a lot of teams need quarterbacks? Yeah, that's my thing with Ty Simpson.
Somebody's going to be desperate, and they're going to take him.
It's going to be the Jets. He's going to the Jets.
There's a lot of hype around the quarterback. I can't think of his name, from Penn State.
Drew Aller? I do not see it with Drew Aller.
Yeah. Ugh. I don't see. There was a couple throws he made. It was like, and they were still talking him up. Like, he would have went number 1 if he was healthy. You know, it's like, oh, here we go.
How about Carson Beck getting booed, too?
Yeah, that was pretty. It was like, well, he was able to throw against adversity because he'd be booed at the combine.
I didn't like that. You won. Because it's in Indiana, and they played Miami National Championship, but you won. Don't boo them. All right. That'll do it for us. We'll be back next week. Free agency preview. If you missed any of this show, you can get it on the Sports Hub YouTube page or Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff podcast. Subscribe to the Patriots Hub podcast as well. Matt Dolph and I will have an episode tomorrow reacting to the Combine, including the offensive workouts coming later today. I'll have a recap of that up on 98.5sportshub.com. Ryan Garvin, great job as always. Cerrone, good stuff.
All right.
We got Joe Murray and Leroy Irvin coming up next. They'll be with you coming up here on the Sports Hub. Thanks for tuning in. I'll talk to you next week.
Boston's home for sports. 98.5 The Sports Hub.
What is insurance?
Insurance transfers certain risks between parties.
Without insurance, the economy would really stop.
In simple terms, insurance is like community.
It's protecting every last asset that somebody has built over a lifetime.
You're in it